Okay, I'm going to call the March 20th, 2023 meeting of the Fairport Industrial Development Agency to order and ask if there's any public comment for the board. And hearing no one, seeing no one, I'll close public comment. We'll move to approval of the minutes. The first minutes to be approved are the January 17th, 2023 IDA board meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any comments or corrections or discussion regarding those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
And so now we'll move on to the minutes from February 27th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or corrections regarding those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Move on to financials now, starting with resolution 2023-03, authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
Having reviewed them in detail, I move payment of bills.
I will second. I just noted that, I just made a note that it doesn't look like the resolution number on our packages match the resolution number.
Oh, up at
Oh,
the
yeah.
top, thank you. Yep, thank you. I'll,
The dates are correct, however.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
thank you
So
though.
that is
Oh, yeah, I see that.
is corrected. All in favor?
Aye.
Financials and the P&L and cash and investments. Anything on that anyone has any questions on, or anything that should be called out to our attention?
I don't have any comments.
Just a thought with, well, no, I'm gonna go ahead and say that thought. Okay, so now we'll move on to the Tompkins investment report. This is where my comment is on what we're restricted on what treasuries we can invest in. And it sounds like in the banking industry that became a problem for some of these banks and the way that they valued their assets. And if they needed to get that money, so you can see why these things are, why we have those restrictions on where our investments can go, because it can get you into a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
All it takes is a little swing in the certain market.
Mhm.
Any questions or anything on that? Nothing from Megan lately on any changes or?
No, we've been in touch because we did have something mature lately, but we moved it. We bought some treasuries last month. And then the next maturity is in April for 100,000. So we'll see what the markets are offering at that time.
Anyone else have any comments regarding the investment report? Okay, move on to old business, starting with our UTEP amendment. We've talked about this for a few months, and I guess we're ready to finalize that. A lot of work went into it. Martha, thank you for your efforts in putting this together.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go ahead and talk about that at all.
Right, we'll note that we had a public hearing for it in December of 2022. And since that time, we've been just refining it to answer some of the board's questions with regard to language about the applicability paragraph. We've also had discussions with regard to the evaluation of these projects that come forward under the new uniform tax exemption policy, with particular emphasis on from board member Genthner. He wants to ensure that what we're looking for is that broad spectrum of housing. So I think we've got that in place now. We've for those projects that meet the criteria outlined by our economic development plan, they'd be able to take advantage possibly of those extended terms and the discount on village taxes. So I think it's been really well vetted. It's also flexible enough that it can accommodate a wide range of projects that should they come forward. As I said, we're pretty built out here. We're not going to get a lot of huge projects because of this, just because we're limited in space to the 1.5 square miles. But I think we can be very influential in talks with developers about what we want to see happen, things that support the village comp plan and that are outlined by our economic development plan as well.
It's all about the incentive, which is the basis of this whole program.
Right, and Ed, did you want to offer some comments
Yep.
on that applicability paragraph?
So based on the discussion at the last meeting, I went back to take a look at the notes to when back in 1994, when the law was amended. And basically the language that's dropped in here reflects the language from those notes. Basically, the points of the drafters of the law, that this was not going to impact any prior pilots, and that going forward, if you had amended a prior pilot, it did not need to be subject to the UTEP. So you could continue on with whatever the past practice was, that will continue. So. So I think we're just looking for approval of that amendment, and then we can.
Mhm.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion or questions about anything? This is the final, it's not a draft, it won't be a draft. This is the final version, so if anyone has any comments, was there anything else from Rob that he wanted to share? I know that he was on the phone with you.
Right.
Well, I'll just, sorry, the effective date will be, when we pass it, it'll be today. That'll be the effective date.
Thank you. No, Rob just he called me to reiterate his deep interest in ensuring that we do reach that broad range of affordability. And so as part of the evaluation process, we do have that. We have benchmarks. We know what affordable, we know what the market is currently at. We have that because we have our housing program in the same office. We have access to that information, which will help us evaluate those housing opportunities.
I think we've done a good job, and we've, through our many discussions, have developed a plan that can be influential as well as flexible.
Yeah.
So I think this was a good addition to our arsenal.
And I appreciate the efforts of the board, because we've had some pretty good discussions, and we've made modifications or got a lot of ideas out there to help Martha, what we're all thinking, and in line with our strategic plan. So I think that works. And to Rob's point, but affordable housing, or as we call it, attainable housing, in our plan. So, good.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything regarding the UTEP? So we'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No one? Okay. All right. That's good. That's a major step on our goals to get this taken care of, and it's nice to have it off our plate and now a workable document.
Yes.
Right. Any other old business for IDA?
I don't have any.
Okay, going to new business, we have an RFP or draft RFP for photography services as it relates to our branding and website development project.
Right.
And we've all had a chance to take a look at that.
Right. We, Leslie White and I have been working with Black Dog, and we're now at the point where they're starting to populate the website, and we want to be able to show us what it might look like. And one of the things is we're trying to plug in some good images to help us, because we are incredibly beautiful here and have a lot of really scenic things, and the historic homes and all of that good stuff that we want to showcase through our website. We have reached out to John Kutchko, and he's willing to let us use some of his photos. But he, for example, he specializes in those, landscape type things. not often populated with people. So we want to get some additional images beyond that, interiors of projects we've helped, people at work, those types of things. So working with Black Dog and Leslie, I kind of drafted up this RFP for marketing and proposed that we get initial, I guess, 100 images, 75 to 100 images, and then also work with the individual seasonally so we can fill up the bucket with throughout the year with updated images. So I think we talked about that when we did the RFP with Black Dog. We anticipated we might have this come forward. I think it's not going to be terribly, it's going to be reasonable. Only 4 figures. So I've already started a list of photographers that I want to reach out to. I'm going to reach out also to the Erie Canalway Heritage Quarter because they have gorgeous photos. If there's photos we can obtain already that are already,
Sure. And
so,
I think that's going to work for us seasonally too, because we're going to need some sort of stock footage to put in, since we're not going to be able to include fall foliage or
Right.
winter scenes for that matter.
mhm.
So we're going to need some good stock stuff. That you're right. Now it does have some good stuff.
Yes.
Keith Boas, is he on your list?
Yep.
Because again,
Mhm.
he has a lot of stock footage.
Yes, I think we purchased from him in the past. So.
I think so.
So I'd like to send this out. If the board's interested in moving forward with this, I'd have Ed take a look and add some language in there. The idea being I get a shot list together for them of the projects that we've done, the interiors we're looking for, those types of instructions, but then it's hands off and they deliver to us. They take care of the, pillar to post or whatever, including model releases or whatever it is they need. This would be hands off once we get past the shot list. So
Will Black Dog have a conversation with them about the look
the
envision?
the style guide, yep. We've seen a bit of that with
Yeah.
the some of the slide decks they provided to us. So yes, they'd be absolutely open to that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My only concern would be that if we do end up with a lot of shots from Canalway, from Cutco, from people like that, that we don't need as much, or we, want to be able to control the pricing, that if we decide, we're getting a lot of this stuff that we really don't need a whole lot more on our own, that we're able to not have to pay for it. Just
Sure.
On a lump sum basis.
Sure.
So
Right.
some way to quantify it.
I think what Black Dog emphasizes that we want to feature our projects mostly. And I don't know that all those have been, I envision Iron Smoke interiors, and, the production equipment and so forth, people at work, the banks at Roselawn. I don't think those have been photographed well yet.
Some of the front porches.
The front porches, yes.
You know.
Mhm. Yeah, facade grants, those types of things. So I think there's enough work. I don't think we'll be flooded with other sources. I think we can take our dollars and put them where we want to.
And it's the faces. I mean, yes, the glorious shots of the canal, Four Seasons, and all that sort of stuff is wonderful, but that's not exact. That's only one small part of who we are. If we're looking to.
Would say small part, but
Well, it is. I mean, when you talk about where people are going to invest their money,
Right. And I think of some of our events too, you can always get a good crowd shot, but maybe you want something that's more art directed about people enjoying some of our events and so forth. So I think, yes, to your point, we don't want to be obligated if we've got enough, but I think if we take the dollars, there's always events that happen too. If it's a ribbon cutting or I don't, nothing's coming to mind right now, but in this next year, there will be things happening in the village. But
I'm concerned that if somebody's putting their proposal together, they're gonna think I need to go to, as you referenced in your Town Street wetlands, the lift bridge, you know, you've referenced all those things, that we are gonna have product coming from other sources.
Okay, let me just, I think, do I ask? Oh, I think this is where, okay. The initial deliverables are 50 to 100, so I'm asking for the project fee and timetable for those. And then we ask for an hourly or day rate for seasonal deliverables.
I saw that, and then also fee for modeling,
Yes,
for models.
yes,
If needed.
if needed, right. Okay, I'll put that in there. Mm-hmm. So this would just be a request for proposals, and we'd come back with everything at the April meeting.
So we would be able to act on that in the April meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And the deliverables were June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're gonna be busy in May.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really gives them a month, because we meet at the end of April.
Good point. I probably should delineate that in the RFP
Mm-hmm.
more clearly, that they'd have a month essentially to deliver. So, right?
5 weeks max, you know.
I'm just thinking if we needed, get a quorum together for an award. If you feel you need that, and
Sure, yeah,
that you
okay.
want to get something earlier than that, 3 weeks from now. 'Cause
Mhm.
I can't believe this proposal is going to take a lot to put together for the groups. It's not going to be
Right.
a big time consuming project. So.
No. And it would be, it would behoove them to be able to start earlier, because when you're talking about interior shots of a working environment, you got to really schedule that all out.
Are we still having our planning meeting on the 12th?
Oh, April 12th. There you go.
Proposals are due the 7th, right? So I guess it will be.
Excellent.
Thank you. Good clarification. Thank
Yep,
you.
that'll work.
Mm-hmm. Great.
We're involved today.
Like attack.
Okay. So, do we need a motion to approve going out with that RFP? And let's get with that.
Yes,
So moved.
Second?
thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Cool. Okay. Northwest quadrant study discussion. The floor is all yours, Ms. Malone.
Okay. Well, as I shared with you in a email earlier this month, one of the hottest topics, of course, is the parking, or the phenomenal success of the cannery project and how it's transformed the north side of the village. But with that, it's brought some challenges to parking and so forth. I earlier today I sent you some pictures that I'd gone through the parking lot on Saturday night.
Yep.
It's stressful. Our parking lot on the east side was full to the brim, as far out as we've improved, which is great. People were disregarding the parking slots and parking wherever they could on the west side. It is a topic every time I step outside Village Hall. It's a topic that people want to talk about. I think there's lots of factors that entered into it. My goal is not to have parking tow trucks in the parking lot. My goal is not to have somebody close because they couldn't, their customers couldn't find a place to park. My goal is to not have an empty building because no one would move in because there's no place for people to park. My goal is not to disturb the neighbors up on land A or B and so forth. So I would like to ask the board to see if OSED can play a role in bringing together the parties to identify perhaps a long-term solution to this highly complex intersection, and help work people toward that long-term solution, and maybe take the temperature down a little bit up there. It is, we are a destination. We're drawing people from the city. We're drawing young people from the city. We're drawing people from Webster and Victor and so forth. Jen related to me last week that she knows someone who said, I wanted to go over to the cannery, but I don't want to bother with parking. So
Good,
we're
there's
already,
one space we can use.
yes. So there's a narrative out there. I want to make sure, and I really think we can be neutral in that. It's not going to be an airing of grievances. That's not my intent about this. It's to bring people together.
Well, you're gonna have to get through it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I did have a conversation with the village manager last week, and he said he could work with us on it. So I think, ideally, I figured the best way to do this is if we think about it as an update to the Northwest Quadrant study that this board had done years and years ago. Not to update the whole study by any means, but to gather the data, look for possible solutions in a very short, rapid response kind of way. Those are my thoughts. I think it could go sideways if I'd like to bring people together so it doesn't go sideways.
So, okay, bringing people together, how do you envision that?
Okay.
A tenant meeting, a tenant and property owner meeting? What are you envisioning?
And I'm
A
envisioning
working group?
engaging an outside consultant, that someone who was involved perhaps with the Northwest Quadrant study before, like Ingalls or Berkman. And it seems logical to me, but I'm not sold on that entirely. Giving an opportunity for people to offer input. And that would include property owners, neighbors, village representatives, tenants, patrons. In a very controlled way, though. If you're here to help us solve the problem, we
So
welcome
you don't see multiple parties getting together at the same time in the same room?
I'm not sure. I don't envision a group of 40 people coming together, for example. Maybe we ask for volunteers about who would like to work with us. I know, we had a conversation with Jeff Seidel, who said he'd be willing to help us out with that and sit in and offer opinions, whereas he's not even a property owner or a tenant. So, and then perhaps identify a group, a mix of people that would work well together. Tell me what your thoughts are, please. I just want.
I think it needs to happen, but a couple of concerns is, I guess I would go into it thinking that not everybody's going to come out of it happy, 100% happy. Kind of like true negotiation and coming up with the solution. Everybody's got to give a little bit, and they're going to have to change their mindset from the way they initially go in. And if somebody comes in and it talks to a consultant and says, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I need, and then the consultant takes that, and then you get a contradictory statement from the guy next door who needs this, wants that. And so at some point it needs to be reconciled amongst the parties, whether it starts off as one big group meeting and then individual stakeholder meetings or whatever, and then comes back together for another group meeting. I'm not real sure. I don't know, but I'm saying that people are going to need to be together, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And probably not all 40 tenants or however many tenants there are, but maybe it's a tenant representative. I understand that the bar and restaurant tenants from that area all got together and promoted a St. Patrick's Day event.
Mm-hmm.
And cut out their consultant that they had used previously.
Mhm.
And so, so there is kind of a group, and they're all talking amongst themselves. They may have some good ideas, amongst them. So is there a representative of that, the people that are the
Right.
high parking users,
Mhm.
kind of as the bars and restaurants
Right.
and distilleries.
Right. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because Donna Stefano mentioned being there on a Thursday night between at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
5:30, yeah.
And for example, what I did is after that conversation, I looked at the D1 and the Challenge Athletics. And we forget about them because they're not visible.
I'm a regular there on Thursdays at 5 and 5:30 to see that drop off pickup nightmare.
Yes.
I mean, that's just,
Yes.
and often parents will use those parking spaces just to sit in their car for
Yes.
that 45-minute
Yes.
class or whatever. it
Yes.
is.
And yeah.
Work on their
Yeah.
phone.
But that's something I hadn't thought about, except it was sparked by discussion with somebody else. But
Oh.
one of the things when I drove through Saturday that I was concerned about was emergency vehicle access, because literally people were just parking wherever. I mean, especially where at the Noyne building at the end there, where it gets very narrow, they just,
I was there, but I was on foot.
yes, it was, it's
I did my
concerning.
part.
So I think those are things I'd like to talk about and see what we can do. So.
Yeah, and I just, I guess I like the idea of having a consultant involved, but more for, CAP purposes. The cap.
Circulation, accessibility, and parking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Yes. Yes.
For that, I'm not so sure about that they're the right ones to talk to individuals
Okay.
and be the one to ferret out.
Sure.
information.
Oh, I see what your point. Yeah.
And maybe they need to do that in the context of that, but that's pretty much what we're going to be looking at. But
Uh-huh. Is it? I know that.
what was Bergman's role in that? I remember Ingalls did the actual CAP.
Well, I bring up Bergman because their name is all over the video and all that stuff. The virtual tours, right? Didn't you work the Northwest Quadrant when they did the virtual flyovers? And Kimberly Baptiste, who is still at Bergman, she was involved. I read through she conducted the community stakeholder meetings, as a matter of fact, as I recall. I also had a conversation with Andy Rouse, who served on the planning board when this project was approved.
It's also Bergman.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that was my thought. If there's, I know we've, the village uses Matt Horn to facilitate their retreats. Is that what you think? There should be a facilitator that?
I thought that was your role. I thought that
Okay.
you were approaching it, that you were going. In fact, we discussed it. We used that term as a facilitator.
Okay.
No said as a facilitator.
Okay. Yes.
That was my thought.
Yes.
As we patched this out over the past month.
Right.
I guess a question in my head is, are there solutions that people are throwing out there that we could advance as a facilitator? Or like why haven't they solved it, right? Like why aren't solutions?
I think it's too complex, honestly. It's beyond two private property owners, and you've got the intersection with High Street and a crosswalk and a stoplight, and I think we need to move up a level and kind of aggregate all of that. Because if it was simple, I think it would have been done.
Yeah.
I think the solution that I've heard when I talked to anybody is blaming the other guy.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Obviously.
yeah.
Right, and
I
I
want
think
us to get in the middle of that without like being able to move towards a solution.
Yes.
I
right?
agree.
That-
No, you're right. Absolutely.
exactly. Again, not an airing of grievances, kind of a
Yeah.
fact. Here's the fact. and here's the issue, can we move, not to blame game.
And as we all know, from our other businesses here, that the people we're dealing with are mostly sole proprietors or small business, and the person at the table is used to making all the decisions for his business, and collaboration is sometimes difficult.
Do you think, what do you, as envisioned, at this very high level, do you think, what's the chance of success? That we might be able to find some solutions to improve the visitor experience, the business experience, the residents experience, the safety experience here? Do you think is it worth our efforts to put in the time and the money to find something?
I think it's worth
Helpful.
the effort.
Okay.
I think it's worth the attempt
Okay.
to do it, because it's going nowhere.
And how much money do you think we're talking about? Do we put up, as we talk about an attempt to try and do something, if we don't get anyone to the table,
Mhm.
we've tried, but that sounds kind of like, we tried,
Well,
you know what I mean?
If the first thing is approaching somebody to do a parking study or a traffic study of that intersection as it lives compared to the one that was done when they went to planning board, would that be at least an initial step, maybe? Because it was an SRF or something. The planning board asked for traffic studies, the turns and all of that, and the counts and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that might be the first step, right? Is updating a traffic study for the complex.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And to your point, Leslie, how much does it cost? I don't know. I have in mine 10 or 15 grand.
All right, I wondered if we
But I
were
don't-
talking
I
about
don't know
50 grand,
that.
we were talking about
See,
15 grand, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
It's
I
an
think
update.
I think 10 is, we should aim for 10. I don't know. And again, to your point, my goal here is to also have something at the end of it that might be able to be repurposed into a circulation plan.
And
And
I think that it's to help with the solution. Part of the problem is the property owners up there haven't been willing to invest their money into fixing anything or resolving anything by putting money into it. I think that for the chances of success, if we come out of the gate and say, we're in for 10 grand, I think that might give you more credibility in coming to the table. We're ready to step up. Now, come on, y'all. So I think that could help.
I think I think a traffic study at that intersection is a good first start. I think that whatever we
And
were
which
able to do,
intersection? I'm sorry.
I think of the High Street intersection.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and that, I don't know, 100 feet either way, because, how many times we stuck, how many times have I trying to go down south on Main, and I'm stuck up by the liquor store,
Sure.
waiting for people to try and go left and right in and out of that,
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
see, I don't drive up there.
right, I get that. But anyway, regardless,
But when I walk up there, if I'm on the other side of the street, I'm always thinking ahead, 8 block or whatever blocks, thinking I should cross
Get on the other side
here
of the street.
now because it's going to be too hairy to cross up at
Up
High
there,
Street.
yeah.
That's on my mind a lot. Now there's going to be, but there's people, let's say we get them to park in Fairport Junction, right? And to walk up there. They don't have that, they're not familiar with it to understand that. So it's, these are things we don't think about until we start thinking about them. Right.
So I think that having this data and whatever results from these conversations will be important, because someday 75 North Main is going to have a project, and that's not going to make it better if we can't, it's not just potentially solving a problem, but also keeping an eye on what could come next. What if the Campagna space gets what it wants? I think that will be a challenge,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes,
Are
yes.
the tenants in what I think of as the Taylor building? Are they having, Pit and Arrows property on the corner?
Oh,
Are they having problems as well that you're aware of?
not that I'm aware of.
Because they have kind of their own parking lot in the
Yeah,
back. I
yes,
wondered if
they
that was
do.
getting-
But,
And I don't-
and I also think of it more as daytime.
Daytime. I
Daytime.
think they have more.
But it's a great point that, you
Well, I
know, they need to,
Yeah, I always wondered if some of those tenants didn't park in that lot, you know,
Oh, yeah.
between Compagnie and that building.
it's only
And-
been there, that's,
Right,
Yeah,
and,
that's where it's
um,
busy.
you know, I wondered about like,
but he uses public space when he has his
Yeah.
private space.
you know,
Mhm.
like I think about like the veterinarian, you know, that
Oh, yeah.
place is open till like 7 and 8 o'clock
Right.
on some nights, you know, and they walk, you know, they most of them will park in the public lot there by the, you know, there and
The-
walk up because the little lot behind the vet
Yeah.
is for customers.
Right, so the
So-
employees. so what you're
employees,
saying,
yeah,
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think about like, ooh, you know, there's 6 or 8 people in there, you know, at 7 o'clock,
Right.
you know. But getting to there at that crazy busy hour is not easy.
So they telling employees to park someplace else and having all the tenants pitch in to have a shuttle.
It's,
That just, when they need it, they pay for it on Fridays and Saturdays only, so it wouldn't be that much if they all pitch in.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that.
we throw it out.
Kids throw that out there.
You know,
Mhm.
is it a
Uh,
shuttle
construction-
from
and
Construction
Village
projects
Landing?
do it all the time.
Yeah,
Construction projects have to
Sure.
do.
yes, yes.
You know, when they're in tech spaces.
I think one of the things I've found through this
One-
process is a lot of people have different experiences with it and different ideas. Or, you know, Chris Schaefer saying that he observed people park at the cannery and then they go into town to pregame
Mhm.
and then they know they're gonna finish the night at the cannery. So they park where they're going to leave from. Makes
Or the
sense.
village-
That's
Or the village, yeah.
right. It makes sense. That's how you behave. So when we get a lot of this information out and understand how people are using it, I think that'll be very helpful and hopefully update us or move us a little closer to a solution. But it also shows that we are listening and involved and we want the best for them because, you know, it's a significant investment that
And,
it just,
and as we went through our planning, strategic planning, and we identified some of the problems, you know, the challenges that we face for general economic development is property owners that don't share vision and property owners that aren't willing to invest. And there are property owners up there that are prototypical of what we
Mhm.
talked about as the village as a whole.
Mhm.
okay.
Well, I say we take steps and we put a cap on spending and
Mm-hmm.
a liberal cap, but
And,
a
and
cap.
I raised the question in, you know, I like this, I think it's important, but your time,
Okay.
you know, how much time is this gonna take of yours? You're working without an assistant at this point, too busy to hire an assistant. So, you know, that catch-22 thing that you get into, and is this gonna compound that? Are there gonna be other things that we're doing, that are going to suffer because of that?
Right. I think as envisioned from this discussion here, I can get that traffic study piece up and running, right? And then being able to say to these people, we're doing this in anticipation, it's in anticipation of, and then you will be asked for comment and, or, you know, it won't all come at once. I think it can be managed. I really want to do it. I really,
Okay.
I think it's where we belong, where OSED belongs. So, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
So next steps then, I guess, if we're looking for an update, do we need to go out with an RFP? For, let's say that we were gonna engage a professional services firm to,
Terrific.
Mhm. Yeah, you should, like you do for the photos.
but if we treat it as an update, and I'm thinking
Oh,
for
I see what you're saying.
expediency,
Yes.
can we can we, because it is professional services,
Mhm.
not go out with an
Yes.
RFP?
Right.
I get a lot of my work doing that.
Yep.
And so we're okay
Mhm.
doing that if we can go back,
Exactly.
and skip a step.
Or, well,
Because the people that already have the data, the database, right, the database exists.
You're looking for an update on the existing.
Yes,
Yes.
and it's just to update their existing plans.
with regard to the
That's
traffic of
specific.
that
Yes.
intersection. Great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good. Understanding that, that would be within that $10,000. Oh, April 12th, we could probably have, review it April 12th, right? I would ask those individuals to provide us a proposal to update
And
their
I
work.
mean, they're gonna, yeah, and you're gonna have a nice conversation with them
Oh, yes,
as far as having to spell everything out. This is what your proposal should include, and they're gonna say, well, what about? And then you can make that decision.
okay, all right,
So what the scope of the project is gonna come back to us in their proposal. They're gonna
yeah,
do
thank you.
that as opposed to you.
And should we then look at that April 12th?
Yeah.
Okay, great,
Better start at 3 in the afternoon.
great, I really appreciate that.
Yes.
That's great. I think it's gonna be very well received. And to the
Yeah, I know,
chair's
so-
point,
Go ahead.
not everybody will be happy, but we will have done our best to address it and keep it safe and enjoyable for everybody as much as possible. Successful, right?
You talk about safety. I mean, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Given, the sports in and out, there's,
It's
walking, potentially, there's plenty of little kids coming in and out of there
Sure.
at the dinner
And-
hour.
And the goal is to have more people walking anyhow.
Yes, right, but.
So
when
even
they're
from other
chasing-
parking lots, so,
Yeah, the kids are,
mhm,
it is a safety.
yes, yeah.
And I would hate to have something horrible happen, regardless of the age of the person, if somebody was not paying any attention, looking around one of those corners, going too fast, and they're coming back out,
Or emergency vehicles. Yeah. Good, thank you. Really good discussion. Appreciate it.
So no board action is required.
Excellent.
Good. All right, any other new business? Anybody have anything for IDA?
So we'll to adjourn.
So